Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome to another episode. Today is a good day. So the topic we're going to be talking about today is beyond logic, right? Your inner guide for decision making. And before we kind of dive into the topic, I want to start out with a story that sort of demonstrates what I'm talking about. So years ago, right, the way that I started my business was definitely not logical. So I'm going to share probably a few stories. So the first one is, when my son was 2 weeks old, my husband at the time decided to quit his multiple six-figure job, leaving us with kind of no savings, no backup plan. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to start a business." And I had been working for myself for a long time, and I kind of knew the ins and outs. I think, sometimes you're a born entrepreneur, sometimes you learn how to be an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur isn't logical ever. And business plans are usually the logical way to convince yourself that you can start a business. But most people who start businesses, it's like they just get this gut instinct or this gut decision. And that's exactly what happened to me. So when I started my business, I had less than $1,000 to my name. I had no credit cards. We had almost lost our house. We almost had to file for bankruptcy, right? And trying to make money the logical way just wasn't working. And so I just had this hit of like, okay, this makes absolutely no sense, but I'm going to fly with my son as an infant to Italy to take a training to then start a business, right? This was like so not logical. I didn't have the money on a credit card. I didn't even have a credit card. And something in me, like all of the pieces of the puzzle started to work together when I made this illogical decision to start a business with less than $1,000 to my name. And within a very short amount of time, like that first month, right, I ended up making over $10,000. And so the story I actually wanted to tell was the story of making that choice. So here I am starting a business, making logical decisions of how to start my business, how to connect with people, how to network, how to let people know that I had started sort of an intuitive consulting business. And and uh and so I'm at this class and I'm taking a class where I thought I was going to make money. It was logical. I didn't make any money. In fact, I lost money by going to this class. And the person teaching the class came up to me. He's like, "Wow, I can tell you're really gifted at bodies." And it was a famous person. He was a famous athlete. And he just said, "Hey, would you like to fly down to Florida and work on bodies?" And before I could even like hear the logical explanation of what he was asking, my entire body was like, "Yes." And then I got done with that and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have no money. I have no plane tickets. I don't have a hotel, and I'm going to take my son and my husband down to Florida with me." I live in Colorado, still lived in Colorado back then, but I made this illogical decision and it was like, "Yes, I'll go." Because the energy was a match for what I wanted to have as my business, for what I wanted to have as my life. I saw myself traveling the world. I saw myself working on bodies. I saw myself doing energy work. And yet I didn't know the how I was going to make that happen. I just had such a strong internal desire and internal knowing that that was the path I was meant to be on. I had an internal knowing when I was a little kid that I wanted to work with energy for a living, but I never saw examples of it. And so I didn't know how. And so here I am at this class. This man asked me to fly down to Florida, and I'm like, "Yes!" And of course, my tickets weren't paid for, the hotel wasn't paid for, but all of these things after I said yes started to fall into place. And by the way, from the time he asked me to the time I was supposed to be in Florida, it was a 3-week period. Right? So I had 3 weeks to come up with the money, not just for the travel, but to come up with the money to pay the mortgage, to come up with the money to fund my life with my son and my husband, right? Because mind you, he no longer was making money. And so it was just this giant yes in my world. I got down there and I ended up being totally booked out. I ended up making a ton of money. I ended up teaching a few classes and ended up basically gathering a small list of clients that wanted to work with me. And that's how my business was born. And so I'm sharing that with you because most of us, when we look at what we want to create as our future, right? That future is unknown, the future is uncertain, the future is insecure, right? We tend to associate anything in the future that's an unknown, that's an unpredictable, that's uncertain as, oh, I'm afraid to start. Right? I'm afraid to start that. But yet, in our own lives, when we have a frame of reference for something from our past, so maybe you went on a roller coaster ride, and before you got on the roller coaster, you were afraid. But after the experience, it was an exhilarating experience. You're like, oh my God, that was so exciting. And so then you start associating, oh, roller coaster ride with excitement. Oh, getting on a plane for the first time to go somewhere I've never been. I might be afraid before I get there, but the experience of traveling and being in a new place and experiencing new cultures and new food and, just new customs, all of a sudden you associate that with, oh, that's exciting because I grow and I learn and I become something greater. Right. And the whole key to life, I believe, is to become the best version of yourself you can be, to become the greatest level of who you can be. And so all of a sudden you take that unknown, right, that future, and you're like, oh, that's scary. No, what if that is actually exciting? And so fear and excitement are the exact same vibration. Exactly. We just tend to label the unknown future as fear, where we tend to label the known past as excitement because we have a frame of reference. But what if you start looking at the future you want to create as an exciting adventure that you have yet to go on? And when you do that and you reframe your brain, when you reframe how you look at stuff, all of the sudden you start to trust you. Trust your intuition and trust your gut more, which is why this is about beyond logic. Because anything I've ever created in my life, anything I've ever seen anyone else that I admire create in their life, I always ask them, how'd you do it? And they're like, oh my gosh, I did it. They wouldn't never say the words beyond logic, but they did it by trusting their decision-making process. And so when we're forced to make a decision from fear, we usually make poor choices. Right? When we're forced to make a decision from excitement, we usually make more aligned choices. And so this is about getting you out of the old program that the fear that the unknown future has to be scary. What if the unknown future is exciting? What if you're making space for that new relationship? What if you're making space for that new place in your life that if you weren't going through the hard times that you're currently going through, wouldn't open you up to make a different choice. And so when we're in a life transition, whether it's a divorce, a breakup, a change in jobs, a change in career, maybe you're moving to a new place that you've never been to before. So when you're in a life transition, we tend to cling to the past, right? We're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Oh, this is going to be hard. Oh, I'm going through heartbreak. And yes, all those things might be true. But what is also true underneath that is you are opening the door to something that doesn't yet exist. And the universe can't give you new in an old framework, in an old paradigm, in a familiar situation. The universe gives you new when you are vulnerable, when you are letting go of something old, when you're letting go of something that's currently no longer working for you, right? And then all of a sudden you begin to open up to allow a new possibility. And nothing great occurs, right, in the familiar. Usually the greatness occurs in the unfamiliar and in the unknown. And so I wanted to really dive into some practical things that you can do to begin to trust your gut more, right? Beyond logic, right? So that you can empower yourself with decision making, with clarity of choice, with clarity of energy, with the clarity of knowing. You might not know how the result is going to manifest, but when you hang on to believing it's possible for you, you open the door for it being able to show up for you. It's when we entertain doubt, when we entertain uncertainty, when we allow our insecurities to get the best of ourselves, that's when we slow down the process. Because the truth is, the transition period can be the moment in your life that creates the most momentum. I'm going to say that again. That can be the moment in your life that creates the most momentum. But when we get scared, we tend to hoard. We hoard the relationships that are no longer working. We hoard the toxicity. We hoard the negative beliefs. We hoard the money. But I will tell you from personal experience, and I've worked with people all around the world, when we're willing to let go, when we're willing to surrender, when we're willing to trust our guts and to trust our intuition in this process of unknowing and allow excitement to enter, the next phase of your life can be a very empowering phase for you to begin anew. Because who doesn't like a blank slate, right? Like, you wouldn't give Picasso or Rembrandt or Monet a canvas that another painter painted on and expect them to create a brilliant piece of work on an already painted canvas, right? You would give those artists a blank canvas. And so when we're in a transition phase of our lives, we're being given a blank canvas to paint our perfect picture, right? To paint the life that we want to be living. But what happens for most people is they're like, oh, let me take this thing from my past that didn't work and put it on my canvas, right? Let me take this 10-year-old oil color and put it on my canvas because I don't want to buy a new oil color. I don't want to try something new. It's like blank canvases are blank for a reason so we can start again. And if you are in a massive life transition in your life currently, whether it's job or relationship or career, or you are very clear that the life you currently living is not working. You're hanging on to a relationship that is exhausting you, that is draining you, that is depleting you. And you're like, oh, but it's love. Not if you're getting sick, not if you're exhausted, not if you're constantly fighting or worrying. That is not a blank canvas. And so, to all of you out there that are in this life transition, you want to pat yourself on the back. You want to say congratulations, and you want to pull out a blank canvas and begin to dream again. What would you like your life to look like? What would you like your abundance to feel like? What would you like your body to look like? Right? So the thought of beginning again can be terrifying for most, but what we fail to look at is the excitement of beginning again, right? Like when I went to college, I left the Midwest and I went to Montana. And I got my undergrad degree in Montana. And I remember driving up to that campus, right? Driving up, going into the dorm rooms. And I was like, oh my gosh, new people who have no idea who I am, who have no idea where I came from. I get to start again. Right. And then after college or during my last semester of college, I moved to Ecuador for an exchange program to learn Spanish, to hang out in a third world country. And I remember getting on the plane to fly to Ecuador. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get to begin again. Nobody knows who I am. Right. I get to speak a new language that might be really scary and uncomfortable, but I get to begin again. And so, for all of you out there looking at the possibility of beginning again, and it's scary to leave your current situation, maybe it's because of the money, maybe it's because of the comfort, maybe it's because of the familiarity, maybe it's because you don't know how to start over. The truth is, you do. You just have to reframe the way you're looking at this, right? So, if you're an artist, a blank canvas can be scary or exciting. If you're a writer, a blank page can be scary or exciting, right? If you're moving to a new town, it can be scary or exciting. It's just a matter of how do you want to reframe the way that you look at your life? Do you want to look at your life like you're scared for the future? Or do you want to invite that curious kid that was willing to talk to strangers, that was willing to make new friends? Like my son is 11, and because I took that leap of faith over 11 years ago. And I said yes to getting on a plane, to flying to Florida when I had no money, when I had less than $1,000 to my name, when I had no idea how I was going to buy the plane tickets or get the plane tickets or, all these things. I said yes. And because of that, I was able to travel with my son and with my husband at the time, right? We separated, I don't know, a year and a half after that experience. But uh for 8 years, I traveled around the world with my son and I watched my son make friends with people who spoke Romanian or Croatian, who didn't speak English. They spoke Italian. And I watched him make friends with people all around the world without even speaking the same language. And I watched him reconnect with those people over time, over the course of 8 years. I watched my son get excited, right? When we're flying to Ireland and in the Dublin airport, there's all these pictures of redheads, and here's my 5-year-old son who's a redhead with his, roller suitcase, and he's looking at pictures of people that look like him, right? And so, had I not taken that beyond logical choice, that giant yes in my universe to do what felt authentic to me, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have been able to give my son the experience of traveling around the world, of having four, now I think he's on his fifth passport, right? It's pretty cool. And so may this be a reminder to all of you out there that yes, the unknown can be scary. And simultaneously, you can rewire your brain and you can shift your mindset so that the unknown can actually be an adventurous, exciting, new possibility for you to listen to your intuition, to listen for those giant yeses as well as listen to those giant nos. And I will tell you from personal experience and from working with thousands of people all around the world from all different walks of life that if I say to the people who in the moment were scared to leave a toxic situation, a toxic job, a toxic relationship, maybe a toxic apartment or a house, when they were scared at the moment, right? And I talk to them a year later or 2 years later, once they're out of that situation, once they made a different choice to move on. And if I said to you, I'll pay you $10 million to go back to the life you had, not one single person has ever said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love to go back to that toxic, abusive, manipulative relationship. But in the process, which is why it's called healing, because it requires us to go inside, to take some space, to rest, to cut out the external noise, to cut out other people's opinions. And so nobody knows more about you and your body, you and your choices than you. Nobody does. Nobody does. And so I've put together a list of 7 different things that you can do, right, to go beyond logic and use your inner guide, right, for decision making. Because most people, they want proof that the choice they're going to make is going to work out. But you'll never have proof until you make the choice, until you say yes to the energy. You can't wait for the result to happen and then you're like, okay, now we'll say yes to the energy. So it'd be like closing your eyes and being like, I want my dream house on, you know, the cliffs of the big island, right? And I want this and this and this and this and this. And you're like, well, I'm not going to say yes to anything until I see proof of the house. It's like, well, it doesn't really work that way, right? It doesn't work that way. You're building, right? As an analogy, you're building your dream home by saying yes to the energies. And so, in order to build your dream home, you have to visualize and imagine what's the sort of feeling, what's the sensation? Do you want floor to ceiling windows? Do you want to overlook the ocean? Do you want to be able to see the dolphins with your binoculars? Do you want to be able to walk down the cliffside, have a staircase or a path so that you can go swimming with these dolphins? Like you have to imagine and visualize. And when you imagine and visualize, you give yourself permission to embody the energy of something new, right? You're embodying the energy of something new. Ding, ding, ding. And so blank canvas allows you to begin to imagine, to visualize, to sense, to feel the energies of something new, right? And so when we're in that life phase, in that life transition, we're like, oh my God, I'm so afraid to let go of this abusive relationship. I'm so afraid to let go of this toxicity. I'm so afraid to trust my ability to start again, to make money, to create money, to invest my money, to attract the people and the situations and the energies that will help expand and grow my life. We get into that. I'm so afraid to let go of the familiar, right? And that's okay. It's not your fault. But there is a different way. And that different way is instead of worrying about what you're going to lose, worrying about what you might not be able to do, you can be like, oh my gosh, I have a blank canvas. And what if I were to give myself permission to paint the picture, to feel the energies of what I want in my life? And so you go, oh, I want joy. I want kindness. I want people who are my cheerleaders. But in order for me to have people who are my cheerleaders, I need to be my cheerleader first. And so when you begin to visualize and imagine the life you want to have, you have to look at, and I always tell people, write it down. Write down what you want. And I believe that in last week's radio show, I gave a list of 5 questions. I can't take credit for those 5 questions. It came out of 4 of them came out of a podcast with Robin Sharma and Lewis Howes, right? But if you look at the questions, it gives you a frame of reference. So last week's radio show, right? Check it out because it will inform you on what you can start to ask yourself. So you start writing, right? Visualizing, imagining, dreaming. And then what the next step you want to take is you're like, okay, am I these energies? Am I embodying these energies? Am I being an example of it? Because I can't expect anyone else to invest in my business or invest in me or invest in a relationship if I'm not being the energies that I'm asking for, right? So, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of 7 things that you can do to start to really hone in on your capacity to have clear decision making that goes beyond logic, that trusts your intuition, because nothing brilliant got manifested by logically talking your way into it, because you can't logic the unknown. You can't logic the future, right? When you begin to embody the energies of the unknown, of the exciting, of the adventure, of the possibility, that's when your life begins to come alive. And I believe this, I believe that every single person on the planet has the ability to hone in on their intuition, to trust their capacities, and to take a leap of faith in themselves, because you didn't come here to live a mediocre life. You didn't come here just to survive. You didn't come here to be abused and manipulated and taken advantage of. You came here to live a fantastic life. You came here to embody and embrace and explore and discover and become the best version of yourself that you can be. So we'll get into the list, but before we do, we're going to take a little break. So stay tuned, and I've got 7 things that you can do to go beyond logic and into trusting your decision making. So stay tuned.
Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no 2 experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat, eat, eat. apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, so welcome back to the show. We are talking about beyond logic, right? Your inner guidance for decision making. And so, as always, right, we can be really cute. We can also all get in our way. But it's when you get really clear on what you want, not from an external perspective. So yes, you might want a house, right? You might want to move to the Big Island. You might want to buy a second property in, in the Hamptons or whatever it is for you. But the thing that most people look at is they look at the thing that they want. And what I look at is, what do you think the thing you want will give you, right? Will give you happiness, will give you freedom, will give you peace of mind, right? And sometimes the thing we think that we want is not actually what we want. Because when we get what we want and we're like, oh, I don't like this. This isn't the relationship I wanted. This isn't the house I wanted. Right. I remember when my husband and I bought our house to sort of raise our son in, we're like, this is the perfect house. And it was until we moved in. And when we moved in, then we saw like, the damage to the baseboards that we didn't really notice. We saw the really bad paint job that we didn't notice. And so it isn't until you kind of move in, right, that you're like, "Oh, I thought I wanted this, but it's not as perfect as I thought." And so what makes something perfect for you is if you follow the energy of it. So I'm going to share that in the bonus, but I wanted to give you 7 things that you can do to sort of ditch your logic and dive into your intuitive capacities, dive into your ability to trust your gut so that you can forge ahead in a way that you can trust, because life will test you. Life will throw you curveballs. Life will send you energies that you weren't asking for, and you can go down a rabbit hole that it'll never happen for you, or you can come back to that unwavering belief and faith in yourself and never give up on your dreams. And when you don't give up, right, that's when the magic happens. And most people give up right before the magic happens, because right before the magic happens, it gets hard. The universe tests you, right? People test you, energies test you. But if you can have and develop this unwavering faith in yourself, you will begin to see your life as an adventure. You'll go on the journey of not necessarily being so obsessed with results, but being obsessed with how you feel on a daily basis. And that's where the magic is. So here are, let me make sure I got to the list. I wrote it down. So I'm going to look at my notes. So here are 7 things that you can do to go beyond logic and get into your inner guide for decision making, right? That blank canvas that might seem scary at first, but when you realize, it can also be really exciting. And the first one, and this is a really big one that I think is underlooked a lot, is to let go of judgment. So you're letting go of judgment of yourself. You're letting go of judgment of your body. You're letting go of judgment of the foods you eat. You're letting go of judgment of your friends. You're letting go of judgment of your friends and their relationships that you think they could do better on. You're letting go of judgment, period. Now, that doesn't mean that judgment isn't going to exist around you. It just means that you don't buy the judgment as real. And let me give you an example. So, before I became an intuitive consultant, I was quite messed up with my relationship with my body. I always thought I was fat and ugly. I always thought I was the fat girl at every party. I always felt like I was the biggest on all of my soccer team, volleyball teams. I just never felt comfortable in my own skin. And yet, I wasn't far off from the size that I currently am, but my mind was convincing me that I was not good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't skinny enough. And so I had a lot of judgment of my body. And I was convinced that the judgments I had of my body were really real. And so, as long as I held on to those judgments, it really messed me up. And about 11 years ago, I made a commitment when I started my business to go on what I called a year-long no judgment diet, which meant for an entire year, I wasn't allowed to look at myself in the mirror and judge my body. I wasn't allowed to eat food and judge that what I was eating was gonna make me fat, right? Because it was a awful, unending cycle that I could never get off of. And so when I began to let go of the judgments specifically I had of myself, of my body, of food, of exercise, all of a sudden the doors opened, a blank canvas revealed itself for all this energy that now was available to me because I finally stopped letting go of judgment. And here's the piece that I thought was really fascinating. And I believe this is true for almost everyone. When you let go of the judgment you think is real, right? The judgment you think is real is the problem you're creating with yourself. So bear with me for a second. So, as long as I thought the judgments of my body were real, I then had a psychic antenna up to attract anyone and everyone in the entire world that had judgments of their body. And so as I attracted them, I was like, see, the judgment I have of my body is real. See, nobody thinks I'm pretty. See, and as long as I had that belief, I would get compliments more than anyone I knew, right? And I couldn't hear them. I didn't believe them. I thought they were lying to me. And so, as long as I was messed up and embedded in believing the judgments I had of myself were real, I couldn't access my intuition. I couldn't access my psychic and intuitive abilities. And I couldn't access the gift that I actually have to help people activate their body's own natural healing abilities, because the body's natural state is to heal itself. Your body doesn't want to be fat. It's fat because you're believing it's real. And when you start to play with this idea of letting go of judgment, it just means not that judgment will disappear. It just means that you no longer pay attention or believe that those judgments are real. And so, my favorite tool to do is just to go, stop it. Right. And I created this 11 years ago when I created something called the no judgment diet. And, there are thousands of people from around the world that tried this no judgment diet. I facilitated classes all around the world, and it helped people break free out of the judgments that they had of their body. And as long as we're judging, right, judgment creates lack. And what you focus on grows. And so if you're focusing on what isn't working, what you don't have, what you have a right to judge as real, you will not create space for new and for what you actually want. You'll keep perpetuating this judgment cycle, right? And so you want to, whenever you notice some people, their judgments on money, some people, their judgment is on their lack of self esteem. Some people, their judgment, and most women, their judgment is on their bodies. And the reason why I'm so obsessed with bodies and the idea that we can actually break free is that when you let go of the judgment that you have of your body that you think is real, you open the door to more energy, to more space, to more aliveness. You open the door to trusting your intuition, and you open the door to recognizing that you probably have a gift with your body that you didn't know you have. Because every single body on the planet, this is just my personal belief, has the capacity. It doesn't mean everyone chooses it, but every single body on the planet has the capacity to be able to heal the people they're around, whether it's like animals. Animals are natural healers. Babies, natural healers, right? And healing is just a high vibration energy. So when you get around somebody that has less judgment in their universe, there is like this aliveness. You want to spend more time with them, right? Empaths usually have very high vibrating energies, but they tend to attract low vibration people, right? And then the empath is like, and by the way, I resonate with this. The empath is like, oh, yay, another playmate. I can heal them. I can help them. They're excited about my energy. And then they give and they give and they give and they give and they give. And the other person, if they're not an empath or if they're not interested in being a high vibration, they take, they take, they take, they take, they take. And it can be extremely exhausting, which is why if you're in a life transition, it probably can feel pretty scary to take that leap of faith in yourself. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to start to recognize the areas of your life where you have the most judgment about you. Right. And then you're going to put yourself on a year-long no judgment diet. And the way you do it is you go, stop it. Ain't nobody got time for judgment, right? Judgment does not create, judgment destroys. And so you want to stop the judgments and you want to replace that judgment that you have with gratitude, with possibilities, with excitement, with energy. Okay. And so when you stop judging when you stop judging your choices, you will start to trust the adventure of the energy of living. And the energy of living is alive, it's exciting, it's enthusiastic, it's encouraging, it's vibrant, it's electric, it's happy, it's joyous, it might be intense, it might be peaceful, right? Because every single one of you has a different energetic frequency that makes up your capacity to create your life. The problem is most of us are hanging on to the judgments, to the low vibrations, to the low frequencies, and we keep perpetuating that as if it's real. So that's number one, is let go of judgment. Number two, and I believe this is really important, is have no regrets. Right? Every single, someone asked me years ago, like, why I have this elephant tattoo on my arm. And when I originally got the tattoo, I believe I was like 29, 30 years old, 31, somewhere in there. I got it for Ganesh energy, which is the Indian deity representative of an elephant. And the Indian deity Ganesh was considered the remover of obstacles. And so every obstacle is not actually an obstacle, it's a possibility in disguise. And so when you regret your past, you're basically not allowing yourself to grow from your life choices, right? No regrets, no mistakes. It's just cute life choices. You're doing the best you can with what you have right now. That's it. Right? My parents, they did the best they could. My mom is still doing the best she can. My daddy's on the other side, right? But we all are always trying to do the best we can with what we have. And so don't regret your past. Learn from the choices you made and learn to use your past as a as a ability to sort of springboard into a new energy. And so when you look at life choices that didn't work out for you, you can ask, what did you learn? What worked? What didn't work? Right? And what would you do more of? Right? And these four questions, right? What worked? What didn't work? What would you do more of? And what did you learn? Or what would you do different in the future? Those four things that you can play with, these are the four things that when I interview or when I'm, having dinner with extremely successful people, I ask, like, what did you do? And then they give me that feedback, right? I looked at what was working. I looked at what wasn't. I asked what I could have more of, and I asked how to make more of that happen. Okay. So you don't want to have regrets for your life. You want to learn from the choices that didn't work out the way you thought they would. And you're not wrong for those choices not working out, it's the universe's way of going, here's another blank canvas, which you can create from if you choose to let go of judgment, let go of judging yourself, if you choose to let go of regrets, and if you choose to learn. Okay. So, number 3 is don't make decisions, really important, based on other people's opinions. Don't make decisions based on other people's opinions. Make decisions based on, does this feel authentic and real and true for you? Right. And does this match where you want to be going? Okay. So, number 4, and similar to 3, but a little bit different, what other people think about you is none of your business. Right? It does not matter what other people think about you. It matters that you believe in yourself, because here's the deal. Most people will never be able to see the possibilities you see in the world. You have a unique DNA, unique set of blueprints, and a unique way of looking at the world, a unique way of living in the world. And know, right? What other people think about you is none of your business. It's about you cultivating a belief in yourself where you have unwavering faith in your ability to trust the choices you make. And when you make a choice that doesn't work out, you're like, oh, well, I learned from it. Oh, well, I didn't see that one coming. Great. Now I'm going to learn from it and I'll never make that same energetic choice again. I'll use it as fuel. I'll use it as information. I'll use it as a learning experience to then make a new choice. Okay. Number 5, don't base, and this is important from the beginning of the show, don't base your choices on fears and insecurities, right? Don't base your choices on fears and insecurities, because if you base your choices on fears and insecurities, you're basing your choices on the past. So you're not basing your choices on a blank canvas. You're basing your choices on a canvas that's already been painted on, and maybe a 5-year-old painted on it. And maybe that 5-year-old is a genius, right? But guess what? It's not your life. It's not your blank canvas. It's somebody else's energetic imprint. So you don't want to base your choices on fears and insecurities, right? And here's a big thing is most people, when they're looking at making a choice in the future, right? Creating something new, they're like, oh, fear has to be absent. Insecurity has to be absent in order for me to choose that. I work with some amazing people all around the world, and fear and insecurity exist. They just don't pay attention to it, right? They just don't believe it as real. They don't buy it that fear and insecurity can stop them, right? They use it as a platform. And I believe it was Beyonce who said, if I am about to get on stage and I don't have the sweaty palms and the butterflies and what feels like anxiety, then that's the day I should probably stop performing, because I know that that means those, butterflies, sweaty palms, heart racing. It means I care. I care about what I'm putting out in the world. I care about who I'm impacting right now. And so fear sometimes can be just a reminder that you actually care about where you want to go, who you want to connect with, what you want to create in your life, right? So use it as a springboard. Don't try to get rid of it in order to feel good about your choices. Okay. So, number 6 is learn to pay attention to your body's communication style. Now, why am I talking about this? When you have judgment in your world, you are not as primed to be able to listen to your body's cues and signals, right? Now, your body is a conscious, living, breathing, ever evolving entity, right? Every 24 hours, 864 million cells leave your body, while simultaneously 864 million new cells come into your body. So that means that, right, when you are judging, you're dampening your ability to pay attention to your body's cues and signals. And so when this person right? From the example of the story I told in the beginning of the show, when this person was like, do you want to fly to Florida? Oh, by the way, you don't have money. You don't have a plane ticket. You don't have a hotel. You're bringing your son and your husband. Are you absolutely crazy? Logic would have told me, say no. But the energy was like, yes, totally illogical, completely unreasonable. And yet that one choice springboarded me into building a business that has allowed me to travel the world, to work with incredible people, and just like dive into, am fascinated by people, but I'm also fascinated by our ability to rewire, to make better choices, to learn from our past choices. They're not mistakes. They're just, we were making the best choice with what we had and the information we knew in the moment. Okay. And so you want to pay attention to your body's communication style. Is your body breaking out in goosebumps? Does your heart lean forward? Do you get excited? Are you, if you're talking to somebody new and you notice that you're collapsed in your energy, it's probably not somebody that you are meant to connect with. Or you might be like allowing insecurity to take over. So you're letting yourself be less than the person that you're connecting with, right? All body's cues. So goosebumps, lightness, your throat swells, or you get like excited, your eyes get bright. You're paying attention to your body's cues and signals, because your body's cues and signals are kind of like the invisible energy underneath your blank canvas. They're the things that are going to springboard you forward. They're the things that are going to allow you to sort of bypass your logic and dive into the energetics, those yeses that you can't quite know. Oh, yeah, it's logical. It's going to make sense. Oh, it's going to work out for me. Say yes, right? And then ask the universe, hey, so when I said yes, it was like, okay, help me. If you actually want me to get on a plane with my son and my husband and fly to Florida, I have less than $1,000 to my name. I have no idea how I'm going to make this work. I'm going to say yes. And then you're going to help me bring to the pieces together. And if it's meant for you, if it's right for you, the pieces will fall into place as if by magic, and like easily and effortlessly and miraculously. It's when those things aren't meant for you that it'll be hard. It'll feel like a struggle. It'll feel like, you got to fight for it, right? So say yes and see what happens. Okay. So you want to pay attention to those body cues and signals. And when you do, you will then have your own internal compass where you're no longer looking for external validation. You're no longer trying to get it right, right? You're actually just like, I'm saying yes because of the energy I feel. I'm saying yes because I trust myself. And this is what the energy says. Okay. And then number seven is trust your yes, especially when it makes no sense. It's the things that I watch people who I work with, they say yes to, it makes no sense. And they're, terrified, right? There's a word, I think it was somebody on X Factor said, I'm X terrified. I'm excited and terrified at the same time. I'm X terrified. And so in that excitement, right? Say yes, allow the energies. And then if it's meant for you, it will come to fruition with total ease. If it's not meant for you, well, then guess what? You'll either get that opportunity in the future when maybe things are more aligned, right? Maybe it wasn't the right person. Maybe it wasn't the right piece of property. Maybe it wasn't the right land. Like, you never know. But when you trust you and you trust the universe, everything does work out. It just can feel like it's not working out in the moment that you're in a massive life transition. Okay. And so then the bonus one, right? And this is a bonus exercise that you can do to get really clear on the energies you want to use on that blank canvas. So it's like the invisible fibers in the canvas, right? You're going to write down all the energies that are important to you. So, do you want joy in your life? Do you want adventure? Do you want freedom? Do you want excitement? Do you want unconditional love? Do you want, the feeling of euphoria? Write down those energies and then look at your life and go, okay, the things that I say that I want, are they matching? Because a lot of times you might go, oh my God, I've been asking for this, but I actually don't want that. Actually don't want that. And so, my friends, there is no right way or wrong way to trust yourself. This is about giving you information so that you can feel empowered to get beyond the logic, get beyond the how, and dive into the energetics and the energies that are important to you to begin to build your life. So I want to thank you for listening. If this show empowered you, inspired you, if you gained an aha from it, please feel free to like and subscribe, share this show with anyone, share it on your social media platforms. And I just want to thank you for being here, for taking time out of your day. And if you're in a life transition, pat yourself on the back, celebrate that you are opening the door to something really miraculous and magical that you might not yet see. So stay tuned as always every week for another new episode. Thank you for being here, and I wish you all the best.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.